Welcome back everybody to another lecture. Today's unit is Coach Others in Job Skills. The unit code is SITXHRM001. We'll be going through all of the slides today. So if you need to revisit any sections or if you are confused with anything, you're more than welcome to replay this lecture at any time. This will be available in your student portal. So as we're going through all of the slides today, we will be taking time to do the activities. So if you need some time or you don't need to pause anywhere, you are more than welcome to do so and return back to the lecture. So if you have any questions or any confusions with anything, my email is admin@wisemaneducation.com.au. Don't hesitate to get in touch with me, or if you see me, just ask away and I'll try and direct you to the best of my ability. Alright, let's get into it. So prepare for on-the-job coaching. 1.1. Identify need for coaching based on range of factors. Identify need for coaching based on a range of factors. So the range of factors that indicate need for coaching, such as skills or knowledge, the process that you have currently or you might implement in the future, any resources that you might have just bought or are planning to implement, motivation, or the business culture. The request for coaching may come from direction from colleagues, supervisors, or people with authority, your own observations and experiences, and requests from colleagues or individuals themselves. So activity 1A. Suggest a range of factors which might identify a need for coaching. So the factors that we would basically be worrying about is the skill or knowledge of a person, if we are implementing a new task or process for that person or business, if we are bringing in any new resources or equipment that needs to be used, and essentially for motivation or business culture. And we could also be thinking about improving the business in the future, including more products, creating a diverse range of menu items, things like that. So for that, you need to train your staff in those items so they can essentially produce those for sale to the customers. Where can requests from coaching come from? So they can come from colleagues, they can come from the individual themselves. If you have observations and you're thinking that, okay, those staff need to be trained as maybe they're not as skillful as you thought they would be, or direction from supervisors, colleagues, or people with authority within the business. Alright, so complete that activity. Once you're done, come back and resume the lecture and we can move on to the next one. Right, prepare for on-the-job coaching. 1.2. Identify specific coaching needs through discussion with colleague and organize coaching sessions. So coaching needs and coaching sessions. Coaches can identify specific needs by identifying problems or identifying underlying reasons for problems, provide tools, methods, or knowledge to help individuals, provide methods or activities that could improve performance, sharing insight about the working environment, providing feedback about working methods and performance. Coaching can occur at a time agreed, such as before or after work hours, during work hours, or on the job in a stimulated environment. Activity 1B. Identify areas in which individuals or coaches may want to focus on in their coaching sessions. So, this could be on a person's knowledge base or their skills, maybe on how a specific task is performed, or what sort of previous knowledge they have and how that can be connected with this new training that you are trying to deliver, and how that pre-existing skills can cross over to this new knowledge and skill. Alright, number 2, describe methods by which coaches can identify specific coaching needs. So first of all, I would do a review or observe the person in their normal everyday skills. So do an observation and then see what sort of coaching or training they need in the workplace. Maybe it's task based, maybe they need more knowledge about a certain industry, or maybe they need more understanding about what they're doing. So after that review, I could have a better understanding of what that student needs. I could sit down with a face-to-face interview and ask the worker myself on what they think they need. I could talk to supervisors or a person with authority in the business, could be an owner, director, and ask them what sort of training the employee might need. And essentially I could talk to government agencies for any up-to-date training that maybe the business has missed out on and I could provide. Alright, number 3, describe individual factors which can impact on specific coaching needs. So this could be various things. Could be age, mental stability, could be physical stability and disabilities. It could be with things such as certain time frames that might require workers to be available for and they cannot, which could impact your training sessions. It could be that certain equipment is not available. There could be situations such as workers not being available for the shifts that you want to give to them, or maybe wanting a different career path and you essentially do not know how to coach them on those things, so maybe a lack of knowledge on your part as a coach. So yeah, there's a few there. Alright, how should coaching sessions be organized? So if I'm organizing a coaching session, I want to first have an introduction or an icebreaker with the student. I then want to kind of talk to the student about what they think the coaching session would be about. And then once they have told me what their thoughts would be on the session, then I would describe my session and what we're going to train or learn today. Then moving forward, we would actually conduct those activities and the learning and the theory and the practicals based on that training session. And then once that training session is done, I would assess them to see if they have learned anything and then give them an outcome based on what they have learned, if it's satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and set a review date for a future time so we can sit down and see how this training has affected them going through their work tasks. Alright, so complete those. Once you are done, return back to the lecture and we can keep moving forward. Alright, 2.1. Explain overall purpose of coaching to colleagues. So in order to assist you in explaining the purpose, ensure you fully understand the task that you need to be coaching that person on. Break the task into manageable chunks for learning. If it's a big task, you might need to have multiple coaching sessions. Determine what the training and support material are, that you require to train that staff member. Prepare a set of clearly stated objectives for that learner. Different types of coaching could be skills coaching, performance coaching, or developmental coaching. Alright, activity 2A. Identify fundamental points for describing how to explain the overall purpose of coaching. So essentially what you'd want to do to describe the overall purpose is you'd want to ensure that you fully understand what you are going to be coaching that person on. You want to break the task into manageable chunks for their learning. You want to determine what training and support materials are required for the learning to happen, and prepare a set of clearly stated objectives for the learner. What aspects of coaching and coaching sessions should be described to the coached employee to explain the overall purpose? So essentially, we want to tell them what they're going to learn. We want to connect it back to how it will affect them and their career, and how it will eventually help them move forward in their career or in their new tasks that they are going to face. We want to connect it back to how it will help them self-develop themselves of the skills that they have and the knowledge that they have, and that they will grow to be a better worker and do more productivity or be better and perform better. So when we assess them, we want to clearly brief them on what the assessment structure will be like, what we're looking for, so the learner or the employee can understand what they should be showing us, what they should be focusing on, and what they will be assessed on. And ultimately, if we will have a review session or an outcome session with a review attached, we would explain to them how they did, and if there were any issues, how they could improve on that, so they can move forward implementing those changes into their day-to-day activities. Alright, so complete those, and once you're done, return back to the lecture and we can move to the next one. Alright, 2.2, explain and demonstrate specific skills, and 2.4, advise organizational procedures for completing workplace tasks. So explain and demonstrate skills and advise organizational procedures. Determine the prior knowledge of the learner by asking them if they have performed the task before. Clarify any queries that the learner has. Put the task into a larger context and demonstrate the task. Explain and demonstrate skills and advise organizational procedures. By advising organizational procedures during coaching, it compares the prior knowledge of the learners by letting them see how it differs to what they were doing before. Puts the procedure into context of the working environment. It ensures that the tasks that are being done as they should be, such as tasks involving safety and operational factors. It also ensures policies, practices, and procedures are seen as part of the process and not optional. Alright, activity 2B. Describe a procedure for explaining and demonstrating specific skills. So you want to essentially determine the prior knowledge of the learner by asking them if they have performed the task before. You want to clarify any questions or queries that the learner might have, and then put the task into a larger context, include any policies or regulations that might be mandatory, and then ultimately connect it together, and then demonstrate the task. Have you demonstrate it, and then enable the learner to take part and demonstrate the task as well. Alright, so number 2. In what ways can you check learner understanding? So the way we would easily check the learner understanding is by putting them through an assessment or observation process where we assess them and observe how they are doing. So put them in the task once we have given them our knowledge and help them learn the performance aspect of it and the skills. We would then put them in the task and enable them to perform, and then judge them on their performance. We could also have a third party do the observation or the assessment, and then give us or provide us a report on how they did and their thoughts about the student and the task. Number 3. What are the benefits to advising organizational procedures when explaining and demonstrating skills. So the main thing that we want to make sure is the learners don't take the procedures or whatever the policies are in the organization as a optional thing. So we need to drill it into their brain that whatever policies, regulations or procedures that the organization has created is mandatory, and we need to create or do our daily tasks around involving those procedures, policies or regulations, so that the worker doesn't just take those policies and say, oh, it's optional, you don't have to do this. It's mandatory. If the company has done it and created something, spent money on it, it must be for a reason, and we would ultimately be going against those reasons if we don't follow them. Alright, complete that activity. Once you're done, come back and we can move on to the next one. Alright, coach colleagues on the job. 2.3, communicate required knowledge and check colleague understanding. Communicate required knowledge and check colleague understanding. Communication skills include questioning, listening, empathy, ability to refrain from giving direct advice, ability to build a rapport, and trust. Areas to check understanding. Understanding of practical skills, knowledge of services, processes or products, legislative requirements such as work health and safety or hygiene, and principles or reasons for certain processes. So what are the key skills and attributes involved in effective coaching and communication? So in our case, we'd want to be focusing on the communication aspect. So we want to have open body language. We want to have clear questioning, be listening, have empathy. We want to have the ability to refrain from giving direct advice, and we want to have the ability to build rapport and trust with our colleague. In what ways can learning communication skills help you when coaching? So when we're learning communication skills, it essentially speeds up the process. So the better we communicate with each other, the quicker the learning process will become. If the trainee learns quicker, meaning that I'm communicating better with them, ultimately, there's less cost on training between the business, and we're spending less time dedicated to training and more time being productive to create products and services, so we can ultimately make more money for the business. When we're learning communication skills, if we're not using them effectively, essentially it can hold us back and then hold the trainee back because they haven't learned the proper skills that they need to. So meaning, even though we might have completed the training, they might have not learned anything because we have communicated those skills and knowledge incorrectly. Okay. Right, number 3, what methods can you use to check learner understanding? So for myself, I might consider doing an assessment session or a review session or an observation session where I just observe the learner performing that task that I have trained them in, or give them a small assessment with questions and maybe little puzzles or things like that that relate directly back to the training, so then I can rate them on their knowledge and skills that I have given them. I can make them perform a particular task that we're focusing on and then rate them or give them an outcome based on how well they did on that task. Or ultimately have a third party, meaning an external person, do the review or do the assessment with that trainee or that colleague, and then they can report back to us and tell us how they did. Alright, number 4, give examples of questions you can use to check colleagues' understandings. Alright, So we could say, how do you feel so far? Do you have a good grasp of what we have gone through today? Could you explain to me what XYZ section meant to you? A certain way could be of giving them multiple choice question, meaning you could give them a certain scenario and then give them 3 or 4 certain answers with one correct answer and maybe 3 or 2 other incorrect answers, and to see if they pick the right one or not. You could give them written questions to see if they may have understood the knowledge and they could put it on paper. You could give them practical tasks, or you could ask them oral questions which they have to answer back to you with the correct answers. So meaning you could have prompts, so you could say, okay, when we reach the door, what should we do to check in? So you could say, if the worker would say, we would then check in our fingerprint or dial our code, and then once we have logged in, we would make sure the door is closed behind us once we enter. So if the colleague is giving you the right question, then you could, or the right answer, then you know ultimately that they know what they're talking about. If they're giving you the wrong information, well then you know that they haven't learnt what they should have. So you can move on. You could recommend more training based on the outcome there. Alright, so complete that. Once you're done, come back and resume the lecture and we can move on to the next one. 2.5. Provide colleagues with opportunity to practice skills and ask questions. So in order to facilitate successful practice, remember that individuals are often able to work out answers to issues or problems by themselves. Your role is to allow insight to develop, not to take over when things aren't working. Be attentive to the practice in order to identify any problems or issues, or to see if processes are not followed. Encourage learners to ask questions. Ask open-ended questions about the task. Ensure that actions are clear, well-timed, and well-processed before moving on. And encourage and praise practice when it is performed well. So, in what ways can you provide opportunities for successful practice? So, when we are allowing them to practice, we want to remember that individuals often have the ability to work out answers or focus on issues and problems by themselves. We want to be attentive to the practice in order to identify any problems or issues so we can focus on them moving forward. We want to be able to encourage the learners to ask questions, ask open-ended questions about the task so that they are having to, or they can give you a descriptive answer and not just a yes or no type of answer. Ensure that the actions are clear, well-timed and well-processed before moving on, and encourage and praise practice when it is performed well. So what are the main points to recapping coaching sessions? So when we're going to be recapping, we want to identify what we have seen or observed that the student has done well. We want to go over what knowledge was delivered. We want to provide suggestions on what they can improve on, and then set a date for a review or another coaching session so that we can focus on any certain areas that need to be improved on, or if we need to check in and see if they're implementing the knowledge well, so then we can set a date and follow through accordingly. Alright, so once you have completed that, come back to the lecture and we can move on to the next one. Okay. 2.6. Provide feedback in constructive and supportive manner. So feedback can be given in a variety of ways, such as body language, brief comments, self-reflecting and open-ended questions, guiding comments, tests and assessment results. Feedback should be balanced, so focus on strength as well as what needs improvement. Observed, so provide feedback based on behaviors that you have observed. May be objective, focusing on facts, reduces blame and defensive reactions, and encourages cooperation. Being specific, back up your comments with specific examples of observed behavior. Timely, so give feedback soon after the activity. This gives the person a chance to reflect on what they have learnt. What methods can you use to provide feedback? So when we are providing feedback, we should be, using our body language. We should be giving comments. We should be giving self-reflecting and open-ended questions. We should be using guiding comments and or results or test results that we have. What qualities should your feedback have? They should be balanced. They should have correct observations. They should be objective, specific and to the point, and they should be given in a timely manner. How can you ensure feedback is used in a constructive way? So first of all, we want to give constructive feedback. We don't just want to give very narrow feedback. We don't want to give one or two answers. We want to give a constructive feedback on how they can improve, what our thoughts were on their performance, and make sure we give them a action list so they can go forward and focus on what they may have made mistakes with or may need to improve on. So we need to give them tasks that they can go forward and follow through on so that they can improve, even though we are not training them or providing coaching, that they can still go forward and focus on by themselves to improve on their skills and knowledge. Alright, so complete that. Once you're done, return to the lecture and we can move on to the next one. 3.1. Monitor progress of new workplace skills and provide supportive assistance. So monitoring can take many forms, including assessment tools used by the employer, the individuals themselves, checklists. This can be completed by supervisor, manager, or the employee themselves. Observing learners in real work situations, recording changes in results, sales figures or jobs completed, and collecting feedback on performance, customer satisfaction, and consulting with colleagues. Monitor progress of new workplace skills and provide assistance. Consider discussing what has happened since the last coaching session, how they think things are progressing currently, what they want to talk about, what they want to happen, and how they judge success. In what ways can you monitor the progress of new workplace skills? So you want to, use assessment tools, checklists. You could observe the learners in the tasks in the real world, record any changes and results, collect feedback or any reviews or customer satisfaction reports, things like that. In what ways can you provide supportive assistance to a learner? So when we're providing assistance, we want to consider what has happened since the last coaching session. We want to think about things and how they're progressing currently. We want to talk about what they want to talk about, focus on what they think their weaknesses are. We want to talk about what they think had happened and focus on what the learner thinks that their success would be. So ultimately, we can guide their mind around the task and reach what they ultimately want to get to. Right, what factors should you consider when discussing the results of monitoring with learners? So first of all, I always want you to say privacy. If you're in a group setting and the results you think need privacy and you need to be kind of It might have some revealing information or some sort. I would say give those results back in a private room or in a manner that is private so other people don't know. You can also include personnel that need to be involved. This could be HR or the training manager, or could be directors in the company who are ultimately affected by the outcome or the results. You want to include the student. You want to tell them how they're going through it regularly. You want to keep them up to speed on where they need to improve, and you want to be asking them on what sort of results they think they should be getting and comparing that to the actual results. Alright, so once you've done that, come back to the lecture and we can move on to the next one. Alright, 3.2, report progress to the appropriate person. So report progress to the appropriate person. When reporting coaching progress, inform the coachee that the progress will be reported. Any reporting should protect the coachee's rights. So like I said before, with privacy. After coaching sessions have finished, schedule a meeting for a time in the future when the coachee has had sufficient time to implement the changes or apply the skills that came about as a result of the coaching. This meeting could be with the coachee's manager, supervisor, or other persons involved in their development. At this meeting, the coach has the opportunity to reinforce the success of the coachee and the coachee program. If the coachee is involved finding progress difficult, the coach can provide strategies to reinvigorate them or seek advice. It can also be an opportunity to discuss new possibilities for coaching and development. Alright, identify factors you should consider when reporting coaching progress. So when we're reporting it, we want to inform the coachee with the progress reported, and we want to think about any privacy issues and make sure the rights of the coachee is being maintained. How can you meet the appropriate persons after coaching sessions, and what can these meetings involve? So when we schedule a meeting for a time in the future, we want to have a sufficient time to implement the changes between now and the future meeting. So we might not schedule it in one day. We might give it a few weeks to see how the coachee is going. We want to make sure that the coachee's manager or supervisor or other persons involved in the development are involved in the meeting. We also want to make sure that there are opportunities to reinforce the success of the coachee and the coachee program. And we can also take this time to discuss new possibilities for coaching and development, and if there are any difficulties, give strategies to reinvigorate or seek advice of the coachee, for the coachee. Alright, number 3, in what ways can progress reports be used? So progress report is essentially a continuously improving document. So one progress report will not be the final progress report. So you'll always get a new progress report. So what might be the progress today will not be what the progress is in 2 weeks. And it could be worse or could be better. So if you're using a progress report, you're seeing up-to-date performances of the coachee. If you are not present in the workplace, you are having somebody else observe them. So let's say if you're a third party, you would not necessarily need to be there for the 2 weeks, and you could have somebody conduct progress reports and observe them who work there, and then you could show up 2 or 3 weeks later and then break down that progress report and then develop new strategies based on how they're progressing. Alright, so complete those and then come back and we can move forward with the lecture. Alright, 3.3. Identify performance problems or difficulties with coaching and rectify or refer to appropriate persons for follow-up. So potential performance problems or difficulties include breakdown in communication, a lack of skill or ability, lack of motivation, inappropriate circumstances for coaching, insufficient opportunity to practice, language or cultural barriers, shyness or lack of confidence. Good coaches should be aware of the following. Learners like to have their experience and knowledge tested and recognized. Establish what learners know and coach them to the level. Good coaching takes things one step at a time and offers examples. Good coaches know how to motivate but also know how to be motivated. People learn faster and better when they take an active role in the coaching session. Coaching should focus on applying lessons to the working environment. Using multiple senses helps information to be remembered. Encourage people to ask questions and seek help when they need it. What should be examined during the evaluation of the coaching sessions? So when we are evaluating the coaching session, we want to make sure we've broken down our communication. We want to make sure when the learners, if they're participating, what is the rate of their participation, meaning are they paying attention, are their attention somewhere else, are we capturing all of their senses, are we including them in the activities, all those sorts of things. What's the time frame? Are we giving them a time frame that is logical, or are we expecting them to do too much too quickly? Are we encouraging them? Are we applying lessons to their work environment, or are we just giving them theoretical examples that don't really relate to their work or their tasks that they do every day? Are we motivating them throughout the coaching session? Are we giving them examples and tasks and breaking them down so they can focus on smaller bits, and once they've focused on those smaller bits, they can see it in a larger scale and then connect it back to their everyday task? Alright, what should we identify some potential performance problems or difficulties with coaching? So we could have a breakdown in communication, lack of skill or ability, lack of motivation, inappropriate circumstances for coaching, insufficient opportunity to practice, language or cultural barriers, or shyness or lack of confidence. How can you determine if problems lie with the coaching process or individuals? So we want to do a review. Essentially, that's your answer there, right? We want to conduct a review. We want to sit down and do a review with both. We want to do a review with the coach and the coachee. We want to see what the performance was. If it was a poor performance, why do both the coachee and the coach think where they were lacking? We then want to observe the coaching sessions if possible, so then we could see where it is lacking, right? And what processes could be the issue. Are they not encouraging them? Are they not giving them enough knowledge? Are they not breaking down the tasks? Or are there too many barriers for the learner and they can't jump over those hurdles that the coach is setting for them? Are they making it too difficult? Alright. Okay, so once you've completed that, hopefully you have completed your learner workbook by now. So as this is your last activity, submit the learner workbook to your trainers. They will guide you if you've gotten anything wrong, and they'll let you know so you have a chance to rectify it. The next thing that I would suggest you doing is the multiple choice question, which will be available in your student portal, and your trainer will make that available for you. Moving forward, you've got 3 assessments which will need to be conducted, which is the skills, knowledge and performance assessments. Your trainer will guide you and tell you when these will be done. You can also look at your timetable, as these will be scheduled there as well. If you have any questions or feedback, don't hesitate to get in touch with me on admin@wisemaneducation.com.au, or get in touch with your trainers. They can guide you the best way possible. If you see me, or don't hesitate to ask me the questions. I'll try and guide you to the best of my ability. Alright, so hopefully you guys have understood all the points that I was trying to get across. If you don't, you're more than welcome to replay or revisit any sections as much as you want. This will be available in your student portal. So hopefully I'll see you on the next one.